I'm standing in an abandoned cemetery, holding a note my mother-in-law left me. Dig up Thomas. He knows where I hid it. Thomas has been dead for 47 years. 3 weeks ago, my husband's sisters sued me for everything I own. They think I'm just another old woman they can bully. They have no idea what I'm about to find in this grave.
Hello, my beautiful sisters. Where are you listening from? Drop your city in the comments below. And if this story touches your heart, please leave a like.
I'm 68 years old, and I've learned that the hardest goodbyes aren't the ones you expect. My name is Lorraine Marshall. Most people call me Lori. I taught second grade for 37 years at King Elementary in Detroit. I retired 3 years ago, not because I wanted to, but because someone needed me more than those children did. My mother-in-law, Dorothy Marshall. She was 92 when she moved into my guest bedroom. Sharp as a tack, stubborn as a mule, and the kindest woman I'd ever known. She raised my husband Marcus in a 2-bedroom house in Dearborn, worked double shifts at the hospital, and never once asked for help. Until she fell. That was 3 years ago. Marcus and I didn't hesitate. We cleared out the guest room, bought a hospital bed, and brought her home. She protested at first, of course. "I'm not a burden," she said. I held her hand. "You're not a burden, Mom. You're family." Marcus smiled at her. "Besides, Ma, you raised me. Now it's our turn." She cried that day. Not sad tears. Grateful ones. 6 months ago, everything changed. Marcus had a heart attack. Massive. He was 70 years old, strong as an ox, never missed a day of work in 40 years at the Ford plant. But his heart just stopped one Tuesday morning while he was mowing the lawn. I found him in the backyard. The doctors said he didn't suffer. I don't know if that's true, but I tell myself it is. Dorothy took it hard. Harder than I expected. Marcus was her baby, her only son. She stopped eating for a week. Stopped talking. Just sat in her wheelchair by the window, staring at nothing. I sat with her every day. "He loved you so much," I whispered one afternoon. She turned to me slowly. Her eyes were wet. "He loved you more," she said. "You were the best thing that ever happened to him." I cried then. We both did. After Marcus died, it was just the two of us. My daughter Maya came by on weekends. My son David called every night. But during the days, it was me and Dorothy. We talked about everything. Her childhood in Alabama. Her first husband, Thomas. Her move to Detroit in the 50s. The racism. The hope. The church. "Thomas was a good man," she said one evening. "Quiet. Strong. He worked at the steel mill. Died too young." I'd heard about Thomas before, but Marcus rarely spoke about his biological father. He'd been only 7 when Thomas passed. "How did he die?" I asked gently. Dorothy looked away. "Heart failure. He was 57. We buried him at St. Paul's." I made a mental note. Street. Paul's. I didn't know which one. 3 weeks ago, Dorothy's health took a sharp turn. She stopped getting out of bed. Stopped eating again. The hospice nurse came by daily. "It won't be long now," the nurse said quietly. "Make sure you say what you need to say." I spent every moment with her. I read her favorite psalms. Played her favorite hymns. Held her hand. David and Maya came to visit. They sat on either side of her bed, crying softly. "Grandma, we love you," Maya whispered. Dorothy smiled weakly. "I know, baby. I love you too." Then she looked at me. "Lori," she said. Her voice was barely a whisper. I leaned in close. "I'm here, Mom." She gripped my hand with surprising strength. "Dig up Thomas." I blinked. "What?" "Thomas," she repeated. Her breathing was shallow now. "He knows where I hid it." "Hid what, Mom?" Her eyes locked onto mine. Clear. Focused. Everything. Then she closed her eyes and took her last breath. I sat there for a long time, holding her hand, trying to understand what she meant. "Dig up Thomas. He knows where I hid it." Everything. The funeral was small. Dorothy had outlived most of her friends. David, Maya, and I sat in the front row at Greater Faith Baptist Church. The pastor spoke beautifully about her life, her faith, her kindness. I thought it would just be us. But then the door at the back of the church opened. 2 women walked in, both in their 60s, both dressed in black, both looking around like they owned the place. I recognized them from old photos. Bridget and Kathy, Marcus's half-sisters, Dorothy's daughters from her first marriage to Thomas. I hadn't seen them in over 30 years. Marcus barely spoke about them. The last time I'd heard their names was back in the 80s, when Dorothy quietly mentioned they'd borrowed money and never paid it back. They didn't sit with us. They sat in the back row. After the service, I stood by Dorothy's casket, saying my final goodbye. I felt a hand on my shoulder. I turned. It was Bridget. She was 65 now, with dyed blonde hair and too much makeup. She smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Lorraine," she said. "It's been so long." I nodded. "It has." Kathy appeared beside her. 63. Thin. Tight-lipped. "We're so sorry for your loss," Kathy said. "Thank you," I said quietly. Bridget glanced at the casket, then back at me. "We'll need to talk," she said. "About Mom's affairs." I frowned. "Her affairs?" "Yes," Kathy said. "The will. The insurance. Her accounts." I felt my stomach tighten. "There's nothing to discuss," I said. "Dorothy lived with me. I handled everything." Bridget's smile faded. "Well," she said slowly. "We're her daughters. We have a right to know." I stared at her. "You didn't call her once in 30 years, I said quietly. "Not once." Kathy stepped forward. "That's not fair. We had our reasons." "I'm sure you did," I said. I turned and walked away. 3 days later, they showed up at my house. I was sitting in the living room, going through Dorothy's photo albums, when I heard pounding on the door. I opened it. Bridget and Kathy stood on my porch. Bridget had her arms crossed. Kathy held a folder. "We need to talk," Bridget said. "I'm not in the mood," I said. "Too bad," Kathy said. She pushed past me into the house. I stood there, stunned. Bridget followed her in. "What are you doing?" I asked. Kathy opened the folder and pulled out a stack of papers. "These are Mom's bank statements," she said. "Or at least, what we could find online. Looks like her account was nearly empty when she died." I crossed my arms. "That's because I used her money to pay for her care. 3 years of medical bills. Hospice. Medication. It's all documented." Bridget snorted. "I'm sure it is. What's that supposed to mean?" I asked. Kathy stepped closer. "It means we think you manipulated her. You isolated her from her family. You controlled her finances. And now you're probably sitting on a pile of cash." I felt my face flush. "Get out of my house," I said. "Not until we see the receipts," Bridget said. "Every single one." I walked to the door and opened it. "Get out." Kathy smirked. "We'll be back. With a lawyer if we have to." They left. I closed the door and leaned against it, shaking. David came over an hour later. I told him everything. "They can't do this, Mom," he said. "Grandma left everything to you. It's in the will." "I know," I said. "But they're going to make this ugly." That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dorothy's last words. "Dig up Thomas. He knows where I hid it." Everything. I got out of bed and went to her old room. Most of her things were still there. I hadn't had the strength to pack them up yet. I sat on her bed and looked around. On the nightstand was her old Bible. The leather was cracked and worn. She'd read it every night. I picked it up and opened it. A small piece of paper fell out. I unfolded it. It was written in Dorothy's shaky handwriting. "Thomas rests where the old elm stood. Samuel will remember." I stared at the note. Thomas. The old elm. Samuel. I had no idea what any of it meant. But I knew one thing. Dorothy was trying to tell me something. And I was going to find out what. The next morning, I sat at my kitchen table with the note in front of me. "Thomas rests where the old elm stood. Samuel will remember." I read it over and over, trying to make sense of it. Thomas was Dorothy's first husband. He died in 1978. That much I knew, but where was he buried? And who was Samuel? I picked up my phone and called David. "Mom, it's 7 in the morning," he said, groggy. "I found something," I said. "A note from your grandmother." He was quiet for a moment. "What kind of note?" I read it to him. "Thomas rests where the old elm stood," he repeated slowly. "That's cryptic." "I know," I said. "But she meant for me to find it." "I'm sure of it." David sighed. "Okay, let me come over. We'll figure this out together." An hour later, he arrived with coffee and bagels. We sat at the table, the note between us. "First things first," David said. "We need to find out where Thomas was buried." Dorothy said St. Paul's, I said, "but there are dozens of St. Paul's churches in Detroit." David pulled out his laptop. "Let me search death records." He typed for a few minutes, then frowned. Here, he said, turning the screen toward me. Thomas Marshall. Died April 12, 1978. Age 57. I leaned in. Does it say where he's buried? David scrolled down. Woodlawn Cemetery. That's over on Woodward Avenue. I nodded. Okay, let's go there. Now? David asked. Right now, I said. We drove to Woodlawn Cemetery. It was a large place, old and sprawling, with headstones dating back over 100 years. We went to the office. A young woman sat behind the desk, typing on a computer. Can I help you? She asked. I'm looking for a grave, I said. Thomas Marshall. Buried in 1978. She typed his name into the system, then frowned. I'm sorry, she said. We don't have a Thomas Marshall listed. I blinked. Are you sure? She nodded. I checked twice. There's no record of him here. David leaned forward. Could he have been cremated? The woman shrugged. It's possible. But if he was, we wouldn't have a grave site. We left the office, frustrated. That doesn't make sense, I said. Dorothy told me he was buried. Maybe she meant a different cemetery, David said. I pulled out the note again. Thomas rests where the old elm stood, I read aloud. Not as buried. Rests. David looked at me. What's the difference? I don't know, I said. But maybe it's not Woodlawn. We got back in the car. I stared out the window, thinking. What about Street? Paul's? I said suddenly. Dorothy said Street. Paul's. Maybe he's buried at the church. David pulled out his phone. Let me search. He typed for a moment, then stopped. There's a street. Paul's AIM Church in Dearborn, he said. Near where Grandma used to live. That's it, I said. That has to be it. We drove to Dearborn. The neighborhood had changed a lot over the years. What used to be a thriving black community was now mostly empty lots and boarded-up buildings. Street. Paul's AIM Church sat at the end of a quiet street. It was small and old, with peeling paint and broken windows. A handmade sign on the door said, Final Service, December 31st. Looks like they're closing down, David said. We walked around to the back of the church. There was a small cemetery, overgrown with weeds. Maybe 50 graves, some with headstones so old the names had worn away. I walked slowly through the rows, reading each one. And then I saw it. Thomas Marshall, 1921 to 1978. Beloved husband and father. I stopped. David, I called softly. He came over and looked at the headstone. This is him, I said. We stood there for a moment in silence. Okay, David said. So we found him. Now what? I pulled out the note again. Samuel will remember, I read. Who's Samuel? David asked. I don't know, I said. Just then, I heard a voice behind me. Can I help you? I turned. An elderly man stood a few feet away. He was black, maybe 75 or 80, with white hair and kind eyes. He wore a flannel shirt and old work boots. I'm sorry, I said. We didn't mean to trespass. He smiled. You're not trespassing. I'm the caretaker here. Name's Samuel Lee. My heart skipped. Samuel. I stared at him. You're Samuel? I said slowly. He nodded. Been taking care of this place for 40 years. Why do you ask? I pulled out the note and showed it to him. He read it, then looked up at me with surprise. Dorothy, he said softly. You knew Dorothy? She was my mother-in-law, I said. She passed away 3 weeks ago. Samuel's face fell. I'm so sorry. She was a wonderful woman. You knew her? David asked. Samuel nodded. Oh yes. Very well. She helped my family back in 1985. My wife was sick. We had no money for the hospital. Dorothy paid for everything. She didn't ask for anything in return. Just said, take care of your family. I felt tears sting my eyes. That sounds like her, I said quietly. Samuel looked at the note again. She told me someone would come, he said. She said it would be someone who truly loved her. Someone who took care of her when no one else did. I swallowed hard. That's me. He studied me for a moment, then nodded. Follow me, he said. We walked back to the church. Samuel unlocked the side door and led us inside. The sanctuary was dark and dusty. The pews were covered in sheets. He took us down a narrow staircase to the basement. It was cold and damp, filled with old furniture and boxes. Samuel went to a corner and pulled out a metal lockbox. It was old and rusted, with a combination lock. He opened it. Inside was a large manila envelope. He handed it to me. Dorothy left this with me 10 years ago, he said. She made me promise to keep it safe. She said, when the right person comes looking for Thomas, give them this. My hands shook as I took the envelope. What's in it? David asked. I don't know, Samuel said. She asked me not to look. And I didn't. I stared at the envelope. My name was written on the front in Dorothy's handwriting. For Lorraine, my beloved daughter. I opened it slowly. Inside were 3 things. First, a stack of legal documents. Property deeds. 2 buildings in Dearborn, both in Dorothy's name. Second, a notarized trust document, dated 1995. It said, upon my death, all assets and properties shall be transferred to Lorraine Marshall. My daughters, Bridget Cole and Kathy Reynolds, are permanently excluded from inheritance due to financial abuse and abandonment. And third, a small USB drive with a label. Evidence. I looked up at Samuel. She knew, I whispered. He nodded. She knew you'd need proof. David took the papers and read through them quickly. Mom, he said, his voice shaking. These properties, they're worth millions. I couldn't speak. Samuel put a hand on my shoulder. She loved you, he said gently. She wanted you to have this. Not them. I wiped my eyes. Thank you, I said. For keeping this safe. He smiled. It was an honor. We left the church and got back in the car. I held the envelope tightly in my lap. We need to get this to a lawyer, David said. Today. I nodded. But then my phone rang. It was Maya. Mom, she said, her voice panicked. Aunt Bridget and Aunt Kathy are at your house. They're banging on the door. They won't leave. I closed my eyes. I'm on my way, I said. We drove back to my house. Bridget and Kathy's car was parked in my driveway. They were standing on my porch, arms crossed. I got out of the car, clutching the envelope. Bridget saw me and marched over. Where have you been? She demanded. None of your business, I said calmly. Kathy pointed at the envelope. What's that? She asked. None of your business, I repeated. Bridget stepped closer. We're not leaving until you tell us where Mom's money is. I looked her in the eye. Your mother left everything to me, I said. It's legal. It's notarized. And you're not getting a cent. Kathy laughed bitterly. We'll see about that. Yes, I said quietly. We will. I walked past them into my house and locked the door. Through the window, I watched them get into their car and drive away. David stood beside me. They're going to fight this, he said. I know, I said. I looked down at the envelope. Dorothy had given me everything I needed. Now I just had to use it. That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat at my kitchen table with my laptop, the USB drive in my hand. David had gone home hours ago, promising to come back in the morning. Maya was upstairs, asleep in her old bedroom. I stared at the USB drive. Evidence. Dorothy had labeled it herself. Her handwriting was shaky but deliberate. I took a deep breath and plugged it into my laptop. The drive contained one folder. Inside were 53 audio files, each labeled with a date. The oldest was from 1992. The most recent was from last year. I clicked on the first one. Dorothy's voice came through the speakers. Younger. Stronger. Hello? Then another voice. Bridget. Ma, it's me. Bridget, Dorothy said. How are you? I'm okay. Listen, I need a favor. There was a pause. What kind of favor? Dorothy asked. Just $5,000. I need it for rent. I'll pay you back next month, I promise. Dorothy sighed. You said that last time. I know, Ma, but this time is different. Please. Another long pause. All right, Dorothy said quietly. I'll send it. Thank you, Ma. I love you. I love you too. The call ended. I sat back, my chest tight. $5,000. In 1992, I clicked on another file. This one was from 1998. Kathy's voice this time. Ma, I need $10,000. My car broke down. $10,000? Dorothy said. That's a lot of money. I know, but I need it. Please. What happened to the money I sent you last year? Kathy's voice turned cold. That's not your business. Dorothy was quiet for a moment. I'll send it, she said finally. But this is the last time. Sure, Ma. Whatever. The call ended. I felt sick. I clicked through more files. Call after call. Year after year. Always the same pattern. Bridget or Kathy calling. Asking for money. Promising to pay it back. Never calling again until they needed more. And Dorothy always said yes. Then I found a file from 2001. Dorothy's voice was older now. Tired. Hello? Ma, it's Bridget. Bridget. It's been a while. Yeah, well, I've been busy. Listen, I heard Thomas left you some money. Is that true? Dorothy paused. Where did you hear that? Doesn't matter. Did he? That's my business, Bridget. I'm your daughter. I have a right to know. Dorothy's voice hardened. You have no rights. You haven't called me in 3 years. Not once. Bridget laughed bitterly. Because you always make me feel guilty. I make you feel guilty? You borrowed $50,000 from me and never paid it back. That's not fair. It's the truth. There was silence. Then Bridget spoke again, her voice sharp. Fine. Keep your money. But don't expect me to come running when you need help. The call ended. I sat there, stunned. $50,000. I kept listening. In 2015, Kathy called. Ma, why are you still living in that old house? You should sell it. Split the money with us. This is my home, Dorothy said. It's falling apart. You're wasting money. Goodbye, Kathy. Ma, wait. Dorothy hung up. In 2018, Bridget called again. Ma, I heard you're living with Lori now. Why? Because I need help. And she offered. You could live with me. Dorothy's voice was skeptical. Could I? Of course. I'd love to have you. You didn't visit me once in 10 years, Bridget. Why would I believe you now? Bridget's voice turned defensive. That's not fair. I've been busy. Busy spending the money I gave you. That's a low blow, Ma. It's the truth. Bridget hung up. I closed my laptop and put my head in my hands. Dorothy had recorded everything. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every broken promise. She knew. She'd always known. And she'd kept the evidence, waiting for the day she'd need it. The next morning, David came over with a lawyer. Her name was Patricia Chen. She was in her 50s, sharp and professional. I showed her the trust document and the property deeds. She read through them carefully, then looked up at me. This is airtight, she said. Your mother-in-law established a living trust in 1995. All assets transfer to you automatically upon her death. Her daughters have no legal claim. What if they challenge it? I asked. Patricia smiled. They can try, but they won't win. The trust explicitly excludes them due to documented financial abuse. What about the properties? David asked. Patricia pulled out her phone and did a quick search. These 2 buildings in Dearborn, she said. One is a small office complex. The other is a retail space. Combined market value is approximately $2.7 million. I felt dizzy. $2.7 million. The buildings are generating rental income, Patricia continued. About $8,500 a month. That money has been going into a separate account, which is also in your name now. David whistled softly. Patricia looked at me. Your mother-in-law was a very smart woman. She protected you completely. What do I do now? I asked. First, we file the trust documents with the county. That makes the transfer official. Then we update the property deeds. After that, you can decide what you want to do with the buildings. Sell them, keep them, whatever you want. I nodded slowly. What about Bridget and Kathy? I asked. Patricia's expression hardened. If they harass you, we file a restraining order. If they try to challenge the trust, we present the evidence of their financial abuse. Trust me, they won't want that to go public. I thought about the audio files. 53 calls. 30 years of manipulation. Okay, I said. Let's do it. Patricia left an hour later with copies of all the documents. David sat with me at the kitchen table. Mom, he said quietly. You could sell one of those buildings and never worry about money again. I looked at him. Is that what you think I should do? He shook his head. I think you should do whatever Grandma would have wanted. I thought about Dorothy. About the years she spent working double shifts. Saving every dollar. Investing carefully. She wanted me to be secure, I said. She wanted you and Maya to be secure. David nodded. Then let's make sure we are, I said. Over the next 2 weeks, I worked with Patricia to finalize everything. The trust was filed. The properties were officially transferred to my name. I made a decision. I would sell one of the buildings. The office complex. It sold in 10 days for $1.3 million. With that money, I paid off David's business debt. $480,000. He'd been drowning in it for years, too proud to ask for help. When I told him, he cried. Mom, I can't accept this, he said. You're not accepting it, I said. Your grandmother gave it to you. Through me. I also paid off Maya's medical school loans. $200,000. She called me, sobbing. Mama, I don't know what to say. Say thank you to your grandmother, I said. The rest of the money, I saved. I kept the second building for rental income. And I bought a new house. Not a mansion. Just a comfortable 3-bedroom home in Bloomfield Hills. A good neighborhood. Safe. Quiet. I moved in 3 weeks after Dorothy's funeral. Maya helped me unpack. David brought over pizza. We sat on the floor of my new living room, surrounded by boxes, and I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. Grandma would love this place, Maya said. She would, I agreed. That night, after they left, I sat alone in my new home. I thought about Bridget and Kathy. They didn't know about the properties yet. They didn't know about the money. But they would find out soon enough. And when they did, I'd be ready. I plugged in the USB drive one more time and listened to the last recording. It was from just 6 months ago. Before Marcus died. Dorothy's voice was frail now. Lori? I'm here, Mom, I said on the recording. I remembered this conversation. It was late at night. Dorothy couldn't sleep. I need to tell you something. What is it? I left you everything. The buildings, the accounts, everything. Mom, you don't have to. Yes, I do. You've taken care of me. You loved Marcus. You loved me. That's more than my own daughters ever did. I heard my own voice crack on the recording. Thank you, Mom. Don't thank me, Dorothy said. Just promise me something. Anything. Don't let them bully you. You're stronger than they are. You always have been. The recording ended. I closed my laptop and wiped my eyes. Dorothy was right. I was stronger than them. And I wasn't going to let them take anything from me. 2 days later, Maya called me. Mom, I posted a picture of your new house on Instagram. My stomach dropped. Maya, I asked you not to. I know, I'm sorry. I wasn't thinking. But Mom, Aunt Bridget saw it. How do you know? She commented on it. She asked where you got the money for a house like that. I closed my eyes. Okay, I said. Thanks for telling me. I knew what was coming. They'd find out. They'd come for me. And when they did, I'd be ready. 3 days later, they came. I was in my front yard, planting roses by the mailbox. It was a beautiful Saturday morning. The sun was warm, and the neighborhood was quiet. I heard a car pull up. Then another. I looked up. Bridget and Kathy got out of a black sedan. They stood at the end of my driveway, staring at the house. I straightened up slowly, brushing dirt off my hands. Bridget walked toward me first. She wore sunglasses and a tight smile. Nice house, she said. Thank you, I said calmly. Kathy followed behind her. She looked around at the landscaping, the stone walkway, the large front windows. Must have cost a fortune, Kathy said. It's comfortable, I said. Bridget took off her sunglasses. Her eyes were cold. Where did you get the money, Lorraine? That's none of your concern, I said. It is our concern, Kathy said. Our mother just died. You lived with her for 3 years. And now suddenly you're living in a mansion? This isn't a mansion, I said. And I worked my whole life. I saved my money. Bridget laughed. You were a schoolteacher. You didn't make this kind of money. I set down my gardening gloves. Is there something you want? I asked. We want answers, Kathy said. We want to know what you did with our mother's money. Your mother left everything to me, I said. It's legal. It's documented. And it's none of your business. Bridget stepped closer. We're getting a lawyer. Go ahead, I said. Kathy pointed at the house. We'll prove you manipulated her. We'll prove you stole from her. I looked her in the eye. Good luck with that, I said. They stood there for a moment, glaring at me. Then Bridget turned and walked back to the car. Kathy followed. Before she got in, she looked back at me. This isn't over, she said. I know, I said quietly. They drove away. I stood there for a long time, my heart pounding. Then I went inside and called Patricia. They came to my house, I said. Did they threaten you? Patricia asked. Not directly, but they said they're getting a lawyer. Patricia sighed. Let them. They have no case. But I'll prepare a response just in case. Thank you, I said. After I hung up, I sat in my living room and tried to calm down. I knew this was coming. I knew they wouldn't let it go. But I also knew I had something they didn't. The truth. That evening, David and Maya came over for dinner. I made Dorothy's famous pot roast. It was Marcus's favorite. We sat around the table, talking and laughing. For a little while, I forgot about Bridget and Kathy. After dinner, David helped me clean up while Maya went outside to take a phone call. "Mom, are you okay?" David asked. "I'm fine," I said. "You don't look fine." I dried a plate and set it down. "They came by today. Your aunts." David's face darkened. "What did they want?" "Answers. Money. The usual." "What did you tell them?" "The truth. That Dorothy left everything to me." David shook his head. "They're never going to stop, are they?" "No," I said. "They're not." He put a hand on my shoulder. "You don't have to deal with this alone. I'm here. Maya's here." I smiled. "I know. But deep down, I also knew something else. This wasn't their fight. It was mine." Over the next 2 weeks, I heard nothing from Bridget or Kathy. It was too quiet. I went about my days. I finished unpacking. I joined a book club at the local library. I volunteered at my old school. But I kept my phone close. And I kept Patricia on speed dial. Then, on a Tuesday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I opened it. A man in a suit stood on my porch. He held a clipboard. "Lorraine Marshall?" he asked. "Yes," I said. He handed me an envelope. "You've been served." My stomach dropped. He walked away before I could say anything. I closed the door and opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a legal document. Bridget Cole and Kathy Reynolds versus Lorraine Marshall. Petition to contest trust and demand full accounting of Dorothy Marshall's estate. I read through it quickly. They were claiming I had manipulated Dorothy. That I had isolated her from her family. That I had stolen her money and hidden assets. They were demanding a full investigation. And they wanted half of everything Dorothy had left me. I sat down on the couch, the papers in my lap. For a moment, I felt afraid. Then I remembered the USB drive. 53 recordings. 30 years of proof. I picked up my phone and called Patricia. "I just got served," I said. "I'll be there in an hour," she said. Patricia arrived with her briefcase and a determined expression. She read through the lawsuit, then looked up at me. "This is desperate," she said. "They're throwing everything at the wall to see what sticks." "Can they win?" I asked. "No," Patricia said firmly. "But we need to respond. And we need to do it right." She opened her briefcase and pulled out a folder. "Here's what we're going to do. We're going to file a motion to dismiss. We're going to present the trust documents. The recordings. Everything." "The recordings?" I said. "You want to make them public?" Patricia nodded. "If they want to claim you manipulated Dorothy, we'll show the court who really manipulated her." I thought about it for a moment. Then I nodded. "Okay, do it." Patricia spent the next hour drafting a response. When she left, she promised to file it first thing in the morning. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Bridget and Kathy. About their desperation. Their greed. They'd spent 30 years taking from Dorothy. And now they wanted to take from me too. But I wasn't going to let them. The next morning, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went to church. Not Greater Faith, where Dorothy's funeral had been. Somewhere smaller. Quieter. I sat in the back pew and bowed my head. "God," I whispered, "I don't know if I'm doing the right thing. I don't want to be vindictive. But I also don't want to be a victim." I sat there for a long time, listening to the silence. Then I felt something. A calm. A certainty. Dorothy had given me this gift. Not just the money, but the truth. And I was going to use it. When I got home, there was a message on my phone. It was from Patricia. "Call me back. Good news." I called her immediately. "What happened?" I asked. "Their lawyer reached out," Patricia said. "He wants to settle." My heart raced. "Settle?" "Yes. He's offering to drop the lawsuit if you agree to give them $250,000. I sat down. "That's ridiculous." "I know." I told him no. "Good," I said. "But here's the interesting part," Patricia continued. "He said his clients are willing to walk away completely if you give them $100,000. I frowned. "Why would they lower it so quickly?" "Because they know they don't have a case," Patricia said. "They're testing you, seeing if you'll pay them to go away." "I'm not paying them anything," I said. Patricia's voice was approving. "Good." That's what I told him. After I hung up, I sat on my couch, thinking. They were desperate. That much was clear. But desperation made people dangerous. I needed to be ready for whatever came next. That night, Maya came over. She brought takeout and a bottle of wine. We sat in my kitchen, eating Chinese food and talking. "How are you holding up, Mama?" she asked. "I'm okay," I said. "You don't have to pretend with me." I set down my fork. "I'm tired, Maya. I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of defending myself." She reached across the table and took my hand. "Grandma would be so proud of you," she said. "Would she?" I asked. "Or would she be ashamed that her family is tearing itself apart?" Maya shook her head. "Grandma knew exactly what she was doing. She knew they'd come after you. And she gave you everything you needed to fight back." I squeezed her hand. "I just wish she was here." "She is," Maya said softly. "In every decision you make. In every stand you take." After Maya left, I went upstairs to my bedroom. I opened my closet and pulled out a small box. Inside was Dorothy's old jewelry. Her wedding ring, her pearl necklace, a silver bracelet Marcus had given her. I held the bracelet in my hand. It was engraved to Dorothy. My strength, my love. I thought about Marcus, about how much he'd loved his mother, about how he would have handled this situation. He would have fought, not out of anger, but out of love. That's what I was doing too. Fighting for Dorothy's memory, for her wishes, for her legacy. I put the bracelet on my wrist. And I made a promise. I would see this through. No matter what. The next morning, I woke up to my phone ringing. It was Patricia. "They filed a motion for expedited discovery," she said. "They want access to all of Dorothy's financial records. Bank statements, property documents, everything. Can they do that?" I asked. "They can request it, but the judge has to approve it. And I'm going to argue against it." "When's the hearing?" I asked. "Next week," Patricia said. "And Lorraine? You need to be there." My stomach tightened. "In court?" "Yes. They're going to try to paint you as a manipulator. We need to show the judge who you really are." I took a deep breath. "Okay, I'll be there." After I hung up, I sat on the edge of my bed. 1 week. In 1 week, I'd be standing in front of a judge, defending myself against people who'd never cared about Dorothy at all. But I wasn't afraid anymore. I had the truth, and the truth was enough. The week before the hearing, I barely slept. Patricia and I met 3 times to prepare. She went over every question the opposing lawyer might ask, every angle they might use. "They're going to try to make you look controlling," she said. "They'll ask why Dorothy lived with you, why she didn't see her daughters, why you handled her finances." "I handled her finances because she asked me to," I said. "I know that, but we need to prove it." She pulled out a stack of documents. Bank statements, medical bills, receipts. "This is 3 years of care," Patricia said. "Every doctor visit, every prescription, every meal. You documented everything." I had, not because I expected this, but because I wanted to honor Dorothy's money. I wanted to show her I wasn't wasting it. "They can't argue with facts," Patricia said. "And these facts show you spent her money on her care, not on yourself." "What about the recordings?" I asked. Patricia's expression hardened. "We'll use them if we have to. But I want to hold them back until the right moment." "Why?" "Because once we play them, there's no going back. Their reputation will be destroyed. Their lawyer will know it. And he'll advise them to drop the case." I nodded slowly. "Okay, I trust you." The night before the hearing, David and Maya came to stay with me. We ordered pizza and watched old movies. They were trying to keep me calm. But I could see the worry in their eyes. "Mom, you don't have to do this alone," David said. "I can testify. I can tell the judge how you cared for Grandma." "So can I," Maya said. I shook my head. "No, I don't want you dragged into this." "You're already dragging us into it by protecting us," David said. "Let us help you." I looked at both of them. "My children. Dorothy's grandchildren." "Okay," I said quietly. "If Patricia thinks it will help, you can testify." Maya hugged me. "We're going to win this, Mama." I hoped she was right. The hearing was scheduled for 10 in the morning at the Oakland County Courthouse. Patricia picked me up at 8:30. She wore a sharp gray suit and carried a leather briefcase. "You look perfect," she said, looking at my navy dress and pearls. "Dignified, respectful." "I feel like I'm going to throw up," I said. She smiled. "That's normal. But remember, you have nothing to hide." "They do." We arrived at the courthouse 20 minutes early. Patricia led me to a bench outside the courtroom. "Wait here," she said. "I need to check in with the clerk." I sat down, my hands folded in my lap. Then I saw them. Bridget and Kathy walked down the hallway with their lawyer. He was a tall man in his 40s, wearing an expensive suit. Bridget saw me and stopped. For a moment, our eyes met. She looked away first. They went into the courtroom. Patricia came back a few minutes later. "Ready?" she asked. I took a deep breath. Ready. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Plain wooden benches. A judge's bench at the front. An American flag in the corner. Bridget and Kathy sat on the left side with their lawyer. I sat on the right side with Patricia. David and Maya sat in the gallery behind me. A few minutes later, the bailiff called out, "All rise." The Honorable Judge Margaret Brennan presiding. Everyone stood. Judge Brennan entered. She was a black woman in her 60s with gray hair and sharp eyes. She sat down and looked at both sides. "Be seated," she said. Everyone sat. Judge Brennan opened a folder and read through it quickly. "This is a petition to contest the trust of Dorothy Marshall," she said. Petitioners are Bridget Cole and Kathy Reynolds. Respondent is Lorraine Marshall. She looked up at Bridget and Kathy's lawyer. "Counsel, you may begin." The lawyer stood. His name was Richard Hoffman. "Thank you, Your Honor. My clients are the biological daughters of Dorothy Marshall. They are here today because they believe their mother was unduly influenced by the respondent, Lorraine Marshall, to exclude them from her estate." He walked to the center of the room. Dorothy Marshall lived with Lorraine for 3 years before her death. During that time, Lorraine controlled Dorothy's finances. She controlled her medical care. She controlled who Dorothy spoke to and when. I felt my face flush. As a result of this control, Hoffman continued, Dorothy was convinced to sign a trust that excluded my clients entirely. We believe this was done through manipulation and coercion. Judge Brennan looked at Patricia. "Counsel for the respondent?" Patricia stood. "Your Honor, the petitioners have provided no evidence of manipulation or coercion. Dorothy Marshall created her trust in 1995, 28 years before she moved in with Lorraine. The trust was created by an independent attorney. It was notarized, and it was entirely Dorothy's decision." Hoffman interrupted. "Your Honor, the trust was amended in 2021. Patricia cut him off. The amendment clarified Dorothy's wishes. It did not change the beneficiaries. Lorraine Marshall has always been the sole beneficiary." Judge Brennan held up a hand. "Let's start with the basics. Mr. Hoffman, why did your clients have no contact with their mother for 30 years? Hoffman hesitated. "They had a complicated relationship, Your Honor." "Complicated how?" "There were disagreements, misunderstandings." Judge Brennan's expression was skeptical. "Did they visit her? Call her? Send cards?" Hoffman looked uncomfortable. "Not regularly, no." "At all?" Judge Brennan pressed. "No, Your Honor." Judge Brennan turned to Patricia. "And Ms. Marshall? How often did she see Dorothy?" Patricia stood. "Every single day for 3 years, Your Honor. She provided full-time care. She cooked her meals. She administered her medications. She took her to doctor appointments." Judge Brennan nodded. "Do you have documentation?" Patricia opened her briefcase and pulled out a thick binder. 3 years of medical records, Your Honor. Prescriptions, bills, receipts, all paid for by Dorothy's account, which Lorraine managed at Dorothy's request." She walked to the bench and handed the binder to the judge. Judge Brennan flipped through it slowly. After a few minutes, she looked up at Hoffman. "Your clients are claiming Ms. Marshall stole from Dorothy. But this documentation shows every expense was related to Dorothy's care." Hoffman shifted on his feet. "Your Honor, we believe there are hidden assets. Properties that were transferred to Ms. Marshall without proper disclosure." Judge Brennan's eyes narrowed. "Do you have evidence of that?" "We believe the evidence exists. That's why we're requesting full financial discovery." Judge Brennan looked at Patricia. "Counsel?" Patricia stood. "Your Honor, there are no hidden assets. Dorothy Marshall owned 2 properties in Dearborn. Both were placed in a trust in 1995. Upon her death, those properties transferred to Lorraine, as stated in the trust documents." She pulled out another folder and handed it to the judge. "Here are the property deeds, the trust documents, and the transfer records. Everything is legal and transparent." Judge Brennan reviewed the documents. Then she looked at Hoffman. "Your clients knew their mother owned property?" Hoffman hesitated. "They were not informed." "That's not what I asked," Judge Brennan said. "Did they know?" Hoffman glanced at Bridget and Kathy. They both looked down. "I believe so, Your Honor." Judge Brennan set down the documents. So let me understand this. Your clients had no contact with their mother for 30 years. They did not visit her. They did not help her. And now that she's passed, they want half of her estate? Hoffman opened his mouth, but the judge held up her hand. I've heard enough, she said. I'm denying the petition for discovery. The trust is valid. The transfer is legal. Case dismissed. She banged her gavel. I felt my knees go weak. Patricia turned to me and smiled. It's over. Hoffman stood quickly. Your Honor, we respectfully request. Request denied, Judge Brennan said. This case is closed. And Mr. Hoffman, tell your clients if they file another frivolous lawsuit, I'll hold them in contempt. Hoffman's face turned red. He gathered his papers and walked out of the courtroom. Bridget and Kathy followed him, their heads down. I sat there, unable to move. Patricia put a hand on my shoulder. You did it. David and Maya rushed over. They both hugged me tightly. I'm so proud of you, Mama, Maya whispered. I couldn't speak. I just held them. After a few minutes, we left the courtroom. In the hallway, I saw Bridget and Kathy standing with their lawyer. They were arguing in hushed voices. Bridget saw me and stopped. She stared at me for a long moment. Then she turned and walked away. Kathy followed. I watched them go. And for the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Relief. Patricia drove me home. We didn't talk much. We didn't need to. When we pulled into my driveway, she turned to me. You know they might try again, she said. I know, I said. But I'm ready. She smiled. Yes, you are. That evening, I sat in my living room with a cup of tea. I thought about Dorothy, about Marcus, about everything they'd sacrificed to give me this life. I thought about Bridget and Kathy, about their bitterness, their greed, and I realized something. I'd won, not because I had money, not because I had a good lawyer, but because I had something they never did. Love. Dorothy had loved me, Marcus had loved me, my children loved me, and that was worth more than any inheritance. I picked up my phone and called Samuel Lee. Hello? He answered. Mr. Lee, it's Lorraine Marshall. Mrs. Marshall, he said warmly. How are you? I'm good. I wanted to thank you. For everything. You don't need to thank me. I was just honoring Dorothy's wishes. Still, I said, I'm grateful. There was a pause. Did you win? He asked. Yes, I said. We won. I could hear him smile. Dorothy would be proud. I hope so, I said. After we hung up, I went upstairs and opened the box of Dorothy's jewelry again. I put on her pearl necklace and looked at myself in the mirror. We did it, Mom, I whispered. We did it. 2 days after the hearing, I woke up feeling lighter than I had in months. The lawsuit was over. The judge had ruled in my favor. Bridget and Kathy had no legal ground to stand on. I made coffee and sat on my back porch, watching the sunrise. For the first time since Dorothy died, I felt like I could breathe. My phone buzzed. It was a text from Maya. Brunch today? My treat. You deserve to celebrate. I smiled and texted back. I'd love that. We met at a small cafe in downtown Birmingham. Maya was already there when I arrived, sitting at a table by the window. She stood and hugged me tight. How are you feeling, Mama? Tired, I said honestly. But good. We ordered eggs and pancakes. For a while, we just talked about normal things. Her work at the hospital. Her boyfriend. The weather. It felt good to have a conversation that didn't involve lawyers or lawsuits. Then Maya's expression turned serious. Have you heard from them? She asked. I didn't need to ask who she meant. No, I said, and I don't expect to. Good, Maya said. They don't deserve your time. I took a sip of my coffee. I keep thinking about your grandmother. About what she'd say if she could see all this. She'd say you did exactly what she wanted you to do, Maya said. You stood up for yourself. You didn't let them bully you. I hope you're right. I know I am. After brunch, I drove home. I had plans to work in the garden and maybe read a book. But when I pulled into my driveway, I saw a car parked on the street. Bridget's car. My stomach tightened. I got out slowly and walked toward my front door. Bridget was sitting on my porch steps. Alone. She stood when she saw me. Lorraine, she said. I stopped a few feet away. What do you want? I just want to talk. We have nothing to talk about. Bridget looked down. Please, just 5 minutes. I hesitated. Every instinct told me to go inside and lock the door. but something in her voice made me stop. 5 minutes, I said. Out here, not inside. She nodded. I crossed my arms and waited. Bridget took a deep breath. I'm sorry. I blinked. You're sorry? Yes. For everything. For the lawsuit. For the things I said. For the way I treated you. I stared at her. Why are you here, Bridget? She looked up at me. Her eyes were red. Because I'm ashamed, she said quietly. I listened to my lawyer. I listened to Kathy. And I let my greed blind me to the truth. The truth? I said. What truth? That you loved my mother. And she loved you. More than she ever loved me. Her voice cracked. I felt my chest tighten. Dorothy loved you, I said. She talked about you all the time. She missed you. Bridget shook her head. No, she didn't. She gave up on me a long time ago. And I don't blame her. She wiped her eyes. I came here to tell you I'm done. I'm not going to fight you anymore. I'm not going to bother you anymore. You won. You deserve everything she left you. I didn't know what to say. Bridget started to walk away, then stopped. For what it's worth, she said. Thank you for taking care of her. I couldn't do it. I was too selfish. But you did, and I'll always be grateful for that. She got in her car and drove away. I stood there for a long time, trying to process what had just happened. Then I went inside and called Patricia. Bridget just came to my house, I said. What? Patricia's voice was sharp. Did she threaten you? No. She apologized. There was silence. Apologized? Patricia repeated. Yes. She said she's done fighting. Patricia sighed. That's good. But keep your guard up. People say a lot of things when they lose. I will, I said. After I hung up, I sat on my couch and thought about Bridget's words. She was ashamed. She was broken. And part of me felt sorry for her. But another part of me remembered the recordings. The years of manipulation. The way she'd abandoned Dorothy. An apology didn't erase that. The next day, I got a call from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something told me to pick up. Hello? Is this Lorraine Marshall? A woman's voice asked. Yes. Who is this? My name is Karen Hoffman. I'm Richard Hoffman's assistant. My stomach dropped. What do you want? I'm calling on behalf of Kathy Reynolds. She'd like to meet with you. Absolutely not, I said. Please, Mrs. Marshall. She just wants to talk. No lawyers. No threats. Just a conversation. Tell her no, I said, and hung up. But the calls didn't stop. Over the next 3 days, Karen called me 4 more times. Each time, I refused. On the 4th call, I finally snapped. Tell Kathy if she wants to talk to me, she can come to my house herself. No lawyers. No assistants. Just her. Karen was quiet for a moment. I'll let her know. 2 days later, on a rainy Thursday afternoon, my doorbell rang. I looked through the peephole. It was Kathy. I opened the door but didn't invite her in. What do you want? I asked. Kathy looked different. Thinner. Older. Her hair was streaked with gray, and she wasn't wearing makeup. I want to apologize, she said. Bridget already did that. I know. She told me. But I need to say it too. I leaned against the doorframe. Go ahead. Kathy took a breath. I was wrong. About everything. I thought my mother owed me something. I thought because I was her daughter, I deserved part of her estate. You didn't deserve anything, I said bluntly. Kathy flinched. I know that now. Do you? Or are you just saying that because you lost? She looked down. Both, maybe. I don't know. All I know is that I wasted 30 years being angry at my mother for not giving me what I wanted. And now she's gone. And I can't get those years back. Her voice broke. I felt a flicker of something. Not sympathy exactly. But understanding. Why did you stop calling her? I asked. Kathy looked up at me. Because she stopped giving me money. And I was too ashamed to face her without asking for more. That's pathetic, I said. I know. We stood there in silence. Is that all you came to say? I asked. Kathy shook her head. No. I also came to ask if there's anything of my mother's that I could have. Not money. Not property. Just something small. A photo. A piece of jewelry. Anything. I thought about the box upstairs. Dorothy's pearls. Her rings. Her bracelet. Wait here, I said. I went inside and up to my bedroom. I opened the box and looked through it. Then I saw something I'd almost forgotten. A small silver locket. Inside was a picture of Dorothy holding baby Kathy. I took it downstairs and handed it to her. Kathy opened the locket and stared at the photo. Tears streamed down her face. "Thank you," she whispered. I nodded. "That's all you're getting." "I know," she said. "And it's more than I deserve." She turned and walked to her car. I watched her drive away. Then I closed the door and went back inside. That night, I called David and told him what happened. "Both of them apologized?" he said, incredulous. "Yes. Do you believe them?" I thought about it. "I think they're ashamed. Whether that's the same as being sorry, I don't know." David was quiet for a moment. "What are you going to do?" "Nothing," I said. "I'm moving on." "Good," David said. "You deserve peace, Mom." After we hung up, I sat in my living room and looked around. This house, this life, it was all because of Dorothy. She'd given me more than money. She'd given me security, freedom, a future, and most importantly, she'd given me proof that I mattered. Not because of what I could give her, but because of who I was. Over the next few weeks, life slowly returned to normal. I spent my days volunteering at the library. I took long walks in the park. I had dinner with David and Maya every Sunday. The rental income from the second property came in every month. $8,500, more than enough to live comfortably. I even started thinking about traveling. Maybe to Paris, or Italy, places Marcus and I had always talked about visiting but never did. One Saturday afternoon, I was working in my garden when my phone rang. It was Samuel Lee. "Mrs. Marshall," he said. "I hope I'm not disturbing you." "Not at all, Mr. Lee. How are you?" "I'm well, thank you. I'm calling because I wanted to let you know something. The church is reopening." "Street Paul's?" I said, surprised. "Yes. A local nonprofit bought the property. They're going to restore it and turn it into a community center. They asked me to stay on as the caretaker." I smiled. "That's wonderful." "There's more," Samuel said. "They're planning to create a memorial garden in the cemetery. They want to honor the people buried there." And I told them about Dorothy. My throat tightened. "What did you tell them?" "That she was a woman who helped people quietly. Who gave without expecting anything in return. And that she deserves to be remembered." I felt tears sting my eyes. "Thank you, Mr. Lee. I was wondering," he continued. "Would you like to contribute to the memorial? It doesn't have to be money. It could be a bench, a plaque, anything you'd like." I thought about it for only a moment. "Yes," I said. "I'd like to donate a bench. With Dorothy's name on it. And Marcus's name too." "That would be beautiful," Samuel said. After we hung up, I sat in my garden and cried. Not sad tears, grateful ones. Dorothy had given me so much. And now I could give something back. A place where her memory would live on. A place where people would sit and rest and remember that she was loved, that she mattered. That evening, I wrote a check for $10,000 and mailed it to Samuel. It wasn't about the money. It was about honoring Dorothy the way she deserved. 2 weeks later, Samuel sent me a photo. The bench was installed in the cemetery, under a large oak tree. It was simple and elegant, with a brass plaque that read, "In memory of Dorothy Marshall and Marcus Marshall. Beloved mother, grandmother, and friend. Love is stronger than greed." I stared at the photo for a long time. Then I called David and Maya and told them about it. "Can we go see it?" Maya asked. "Yes," I said. "This Sunday." That Sunday, the three of us drove to St. Paul's. The church looked different already. The broken windows were being repaired. The paint was fresh. We walked to the cemetery and found the bench. David ran his hand over the plaque. "This is perfect, Mom." Maya sat down on the bench and looked up at the oak tree. "Grandma and Grandpa would love this," she said. I sat beside her. And for the first time since Dorothy died, I felt at peace. 6 months passed. Life settled into a comfortable rhythm. I volunteered at the library 3 days a week. I took a watercolor painting class on Thursdays. I had coffee with friends from my teaching days. The rental property continued to provide steady income. I'd saved nearly $40,000 since the lawsuit ended. David's business was thriving. He'd hired 3 new employees and opened a second location. Maya had been accepted into a fellowship program at Johns Hopkins. She'd be moving to Baltimore in the fall. Everything was going well. Too well, maybe. I should have known it wouldn't last. It was a Tuesday morning in early October. I was watering my roses when a car pulled into my driveway. Not Bridget or Kathy's car. A Mercedes. Black and expensive looking. A man in a suit got out. He was in his 50s, with silver hair and an expensive watch. "Mrs. Marshall?" he called. I set down the watering can. "Yes?" He walked over with a business card. "My name is Vincent Shaw. I'm a real estate developer." I looked at the card but didn't take it. "I'm not interested in selling my house." He smiled. "I'm not here about your house. I'm here about your property in Dearborn." My stomach tightened. "What about it?" "I represent a client who's very interested in purchasing it. The retail space on Michigan Avenue." "It's not for sale," I said. "I understand, but I think you'll want to hear our offer." "I don't." Vincent's smile didn't falter. $3.2 million. Cash. Closing in 30 days. I blinked. The property was worth maybe $1.4 million. This was more than double. "Why?" I asked. "My client is assembling multiple parcels for a mixed-use development. Your property is essential to the project." "Who's your client?" "I'm not at liberty to say. But I can assure you this is a legitimate offer." I crossed my arms. I said, "It's not for sale." Vincent pulled out an envelope. "This is a letter of intent. Look it over. Talk to your financial advisor. There's no pressure." He set the envelope on my porch railing and walked back to his car. "Think about it, Mrs. Marshall," he called. "This kind of opportunity doesn't come around twice." He drove away. I stood there, staring at the envelope. $3.2 million. That night, I called Patricia. "A developer came to my house today," I said. "He offered me $3 million for the Dearborn property." Patricia was quiet for a moment. $3 million? 3.2. That's significant. Did he say who the buyer is? No. He said his client is assembling parcels for a development. Patricia sighed. That's common in real estate. Developers use intermediaries to avoid driving up prices. Should I consider it? I asked. That depends. Do you need the money? I thought about it. The rental income was enough to live on. I had savings. David and Maya were taken care of. No, I said. I don't need it. Then the question is, do you want it? I looked out my window at the quiet street. At the life I'd built. I don't know, I said honestly. Sleep on it, Patricia advised. Don't make any decisions tonight. I hung up and opened the envelope. Inside was a professionally printed letter on thick paper. It outlined the offer. $3.2 million. Cash. No contingencies. At the bottom was a phone number. I set the letter on my kitchen table and stared at it. $3.2 million. What would I do with that kind of money? I already had everything I needed. But then I thought about Maya's fellowship. About David's business. About the church restoration. $3 million could change a lot of lives. The next morning, I called David. Someone offered me $3 million for the Dearborn property, I said. $3 million? David said, shocked. That's incredible, Mom. I don't know if I should take it. Why not? Because it feels like giving up something your grandmother worked hard for. David was quiet for a moment. Grandma wanted you to be secure. If selling the property makes you more secure, I think she'd want you to do it. You really think so? Yes. But it's your decision, Mom. Not mine. I called Maya next. She said the same thing. Do what feels right, Mama. We'll support you no matter what. That afternoon, I drove to Dearborn. I hadn't been to the property in months. It was a 3-story brick building on a busy corner. The ground floor was a small grocery store. The upper floors were offices. I parked across the street and just looked at it. Dorothy had bought this building in 1972. She'd paid $28,000 for it. Over 50 years, it had provided her with steady income, security, freedom, and now it was mine. I thought about what Patricia had said. Do I need the money? No. Do I want it? I still didn't know. I was about to leave when my phone rang. Unknown number. I answered. Hello? Mrs. Marshall, this is Vincent Shaw. I wanted to follow up on our conversation yesterday. I haven't made a decision yet, I said. I understand. But I need to let you know that our offer expires in 48 hours. After that, my client will move on to other opportunities. I frowned. That's very fast. Real estate moves quickly, Mrs. Marshall. Especially at this level. Something about his tone bothered me. Too smooth. Too practiced. I'll think about it, I said, and hung up. I sat in my car, thinking. 48 hours. Why the rush? I called Patricia again. He said the offer expires in 48 hours, I said. Patricia's voice sharpened. That's a pressure tactic. Let me look into this. What's the developer's name again? Vincent Shaw. Give me an hour. Patricia called back 50 minutes later. I found something, she said. Vincent Shaw works for Meridian Development. They've been buying up properties in Dearborn for the past year. Is that unusual? No. But here's what's interesting. The property directly next to yours just sold last month. For $1.1 million. I frowned. So why are they offering me $3 million? Because they need your property to complete the project. Without it, the entire development falls apart. So they're desperate. Exactly. Which means you have leverage. I felt a small smile. What should I do? If you want to sell, counter offer. Ask for $4 million. $4 million? Why not? They came in high for a reason. They expect negotiation. I thought about it. What if they say no? Then they say no, but I don't think they will. That evening, I called Vincent Shaw. Mr. Shaw, this is Lorraine Marshall. Mrs. Marshall, he said warmly. Have you made a decision? I have. I'll sell the property for $4 million. Cash. 30-day closing. There was a long pause. Mrs. Marshall, our offer is $3.2 million. I understand. My counter offer is $4 million. Another pause. I'll need to speak with my client. Take your time, I said. But my offer expires in 24 hours. I heard him exhale. I'll call you back. He hung up. I sat on my couch, my heart pounding. Had I just made a huge mistake? 4 hours later, my phone rang. It was Vincent Shaw. Mrs. Marshall, my client has agreed to your terms. $4 million. Cash. 30-day closing. I felt my breath catch. Okay, I'll have the paperwork drawn up and sent to you by tomorrow morning. Send it to my attorney, I said, and gave him Patricia's address. After I hung up, I just sat there, stunned. $4 million. I called Patricia immediately. They accepted, I said, my voice shaking. Patricia laughed. Of course they did. Congratulations, Lorraine. I can't believe it. Believe it, you just made yourself a very wealthy woman. After I hung up, I called David and Maya. They were both ecstatic. Mom, this is incredible. David said, what are you going to do with the money? Maya asked. I thought about it. I don't know yet, I said. But I'll figure it out. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Dorothy. About everything she'd sacrificed to build this life. And now I was selling a piece of it. Was I doing the right thing? I got out of bed and went downstairs. I made a cup of tea and sat in the dark living room. Then I heard Dorothy's voice in my head. Not a memory, just a feeling. You're stronger than you think, Lori. Trust yourself. I closed my eyes. Dorothy had given me this property not to keep forever, but to use wisely. And selling it for $4 million? That was wise. I went back to bed and finally fell asleep. The next morning, Patricia called. The paperwork came through. Everything looks good. I'll have you sign this week. Okay, I said. There's one more thing, Patricia said. After taxes and fees, you'll net about $3.5 million. $3.5 million. I tried to wrap my head around it. What should I do with it? I asked. Patricia laughed. That's up to you, but I'd recommend meeting with a financial advisor. Someone who can help you invest it wisely. Okay, I said. Can you recommend someone? I'll send you a name. A week later, I signed the paperwork. The money was wired into my account the same day. I logged into my bank and stared at the balance. $3,542,816. I sat there for a long time, just looking at the number. Then I did something I hadn't done in years. I cried. Not sad tears, not happy tears, just overwhelmed tears. Dorothy had started with $28,000 and turned it into this. And now it was mine. That evening, I sat down with a notebook and made a list. What to do with the money. Set up trust funds for David and Maya's children. Donate to St. Paul's Restoration Project. Establish a scholarship fund at my old school. Invest the rest for long-term security. I looked at the list and felt something settle in my chest. This was right. This was what Dorothy would have wanted. Not for me to hoard the money, but to use it, to spread it, to help people. The next morning, I called Samuel Lee. Mr. Lee, I'd like to make another donation to the church. That's very generous, Mrs. Marshall. How much? $250,000. There was silence. Mrs. Marshall, Samuel said, his voice thick. I don't know what to say. Say you'll use it to help the community, I said. We will, I promise. After I hung up, I felt lighter. One decision down, many more to go. But for the first time since Dorothy died, I felt like I was doing exactly what I was meant to do. 5 years have passed since I stood in that courtroom. 5 years since Dorothy's death changed everything. I'm 73 now. My hair is completely gray, though Maya says it makes me look distinguished. My knees ache on cold mornings. But I'm healthy, happy, at peace. The house in Bloomfield Hills is filled with life now. Not just mine. David and his wife had twins 3 years ago. A boy and a girl. Nathan and Nora. They're loud and messy and absolutely perfect. Maya got married last summer to a surgeon she met at Johns Hopkins. They live in Baltimore, but they visit often. And me? I'm Grandma Lori now. The best title I've ever had. This morning, I'm sitting in my kitchen with a cup of coffee, looking at a letter that arrived yesterday. It's from the principal of King Elementary, my old school. Dear Mrs. Marshall, I am writing to inform you that the Dorothy Marshall Scholarship Fund has awarded its 20th scholarship this year. Thanks to your generosity, 20 young people from our community have received full college tuition. Your mother-in-law's legacy lives on through these students. And through you. With gratitude, Principal Monica Henderson. I set the letter down and smile. 20 scholarships. 20 lives changed. Dorothy would have loved that. My phone buzzes. It's a text from David. Mom, can you babysit tomorrow? Sarah has a work thing and I have a meeting. I text back immediately. Of course. Bring them over for breakfast. A minute later, another text. You're the best. See you at 8 a.m. I look around my kitchen. The toys in the corner. The drawings on the refrigerator. The noise and chaos that comes with grandchildren. This is what Dorothy gave me. Not just money, not just security, but a future. Later that afternoon, I drive to St. Paul's. The church is unrecognizable now. The exterior has been fully restored. The stained glass windows shine in the sunlight. The cemetery is manicured and peaceful. Inside, the sanctuary has been converted into a community center. There are after-school programs, food distributions, job training classes. Samuel Lee is still the caretaker. He's 83 now, moving a little slower, but his smile is the same. Mrs. Marshall, he says when he sees me. Right on time. I wouldn't miss it, I say. Today is special. The community center is unveiling a new memorial wall. Names of people who contributed to the restoration. Dorothy's name is there. So is Marcus's. And mine. But that's not why I come. I come because this place represents something bigger than me. Bigger than money. It represents community, faith, second chances. Samuel walks me to the cemetery. We sit on Dorothy's bench under the oak tree. How have you been? He asks. Good, I say. Busy with the grandchildren. He smiles. That's good. That's what life is for. We sit in comfortable silence for a while. Then Samuel speaks again. You know, I think about Dorothy often. About the day she asked me to keep that box safe. What did she say to you? I ask. Samuel looks at the headstone. She said, my daughters will come for money. But Lorraine will come for love. Make sure she knows I loved her back. My throat tightens. She knew, I whisper. She knew what would happen. She knew, Samuel agrees. And she prepared you for it. I wipe my eyes. I wish she could see what her money has done. The scholarships. The church. The lives changed. She can see, Samuel says gently. I believe that. We sit for a few more minutes, then I stand. Thank you, Mr. Lee, for everything. It's my honor, Mrs. Marshall. I drive home as the sun sets. The sky is painted in shades of orange and pink. When I pull into my driveway, I see a car I don't recognize. My chest tightens. Then I see who it is. Bridget. She's sitting on my porch steps, just like she did 5 years ago. I get out of the car slowly. Bridget, I say carefully. What are you doing here? She stands. She looks older, tired, but not hostile. I'm sorry to show up unannounced, she says. I tried calling, but I didn't have your number. What do you want? She takes a deep breath. I wanted to tell you something. And I wanted to do it in person. I cross my arms. I'm listening. Kathy died, Bridget says quietly. 2 months ago. Heart attack. I feel my stomach drop. I'm sorry. Bridget nods. Thank you. She was only 68. We stand there in awkward silence. Why are you telling me this? I ask. Because before she died, she asked me to give you something. Bridget reaches into her purse and pulls out an envelope. I take it carefully. What is it? A letter, Bridget says. She wrote it a year ago. She wanted you to have it. I look down at the envelope. My name is written on the front in shaky handwriting. Thank you, I say quietly. Bridget nods. I should go. She turns to leave, then stops. Lorraine? Yes? You were right. About everything. My mother loved you more than she loved me. And you deserved it. Before I can respond, she walks to her car and drives away. I stand there, holding the envelope. Then I go inside, sit on my couch, and open it. The letter is written on lined notebook paper. The handwriting is shaky but legible. Dear Lorraine, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I don't know when, but Bridget promised to give this to you. I need you to know something. I was wrong. About everything. I spent my whole life angry at my mother for choosing you over me. But the truth is, she didn't choose you. I pushed her away. I was jealous of you. Jealous of the way she talked about you. Jealous of the way she loved you. But you earned that love. You were there when I wasn't. You cared for her when I didn't. I'm sorry for the lawsuit. I'm sorry for the pain I caused you. I'm sorry for being the daughter my mother deserved to forget. I hope you've done something good with the money. I hope you've helped people. I know my mother would want that. And I hope you can forgive me. Not because I deserve it, but because you're the kind of person who does. With regret, Kathy. I read the letter 3 times. Then I fold it carefully and put it back in the envelope. I think about Kathy, about the bitterness she carried, the regret, and I realize something. I do forgive her, not because she asked, but because holding on to anger would only hurt me. Dorothy taught me that, in life and in death. That evening, I call Maya and David and tell them about Kathy. How do you feel? Maya asks. Sad, I say honestly. But also grateful. Grateful? David asks. Yes, grateful that I had Dorothy. Grateful that I knew what real love looked like. After I hang up, I sit in my living room and think about the past 5 years. The lawsuit, the money, the scholarships, the church, all of it started with Dorothy's last words. Dig up Thomas. He knows where I hid it. She hadn't been talking about money. Not really. She'd been talking about truth. About legacy. About what really matters. And I found it. Not in a metal box or a bank account. But in the love she left behind. The next morning, David brings the twins over for breakfast. Nathan and Nora run through the house, laughing and shrieking. David tries to calm them down, but I stop him. Let them play, I say. This house needs noise. We make pancakes together. The twins help, getting flour everywhere. After breakfast, we sit in the backyard. The twins play on the swing set David installed last year. Mom, David says quietly. I never thanked you. For what? For paying off my debt. For everything you've done for us. I put a hand on his arm. Your grandmother did that, not me. No, David says. Grandma gave you the money. But you chose to share it. That was you. I smile. Then you're welcome. We sit in comfortable silence, watching the twins. Do you ever think about Aunt Bridget and Aunt Kathy? David asks. Sometimes, I say. I think about the choices they made. The pain they caused themselves. Do you regret anything? I think about it. No. I wish things had been different. I wish they'd been better people. But I don't regret standing up for myself. David nods. Good. That afternoon, after David leaves, I go to my bedroom and open the box of Dorothy's jewelry one more time. I put on her pearl necklace and look at myself in the mirror. We did it, Mom, I whisper. We protected your legacy. We helped people. We made a difference. I imagine her smiling. Then I hear Marcus's voice too. Warm and proud. That's my girl. I close my eyes and let the memory wash over me. When I open them, I see something I haven't seen in years. Hope. Not for money or security. I have that now, but hope for the future. For my grandchildren. For the students receiving scholarships. For the community at St. Paul's. Hope that the love Dorothy gave me will continue to spread. That evening, I sit on my back porch with a glass of wine and watch the sunset. My phone buzzes. It's a photo from Maya. She and her husband are at the beach. She's smiling, glowing, happy. The caption reads, "Thinking of you, Mama. Thinking of Grandma." Thank you for showing me what strength looks like. I stare at the photo for a long time. Then I type back, she's so proud of you. And so am I. I set my phone down and take a sip of wine. Bridget was right about one thing. Dorothy loved me more than she loved her own daughters. Not because I was better than them, but because I showed up. I stayed. I loved her back. And in the end, that's what mattered. Not money, not property, not even blood. Love. I think about everything I've lost. Marcus, Dorothy, years of peace, and everything I've gained. Security, grandchildren, a legacy of my own. Would I do it all again? Yes. 1,000 times yes. Because Dorothy didn't just leave me money. She left me proof that I mattered. That my life had meaning. That love, in the end, is the only thing that lasts. As the sun dips below the horizon, I close my eyes and say a prayer. Not for money, not for revenge, not for justice, but for peace, for Dorothy, for Marcus, for Kathy, and for myself. And as I sit there, in the home Dorothy helped me build, I feel something I haven't felt in a long time. Complete, whole, free. I open my eyes and smile. This is Dorothy's legacy, and it's